Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. ATP draw preview and prediction video. We're going to go through every single match. I'm going to pick my winners, and then ultimately we're going to get down to who is going to win the first Grand Slam of the year on the men's side. Before we get into it though, remember to hit that like button and do subscribe if you are new. Also, do leave a rating or review if you're listening on a podcast platform. And thank you to all you members on YouTube. You guys are legends. Okay, let's get into this. One of the popcorn matches of the first round, Rafael Nadal versus Jack Draper. We do actually know that this will be played in daytime conditions because the timings for day one have been released and Nadal is during the day. So Jack Draper just lost to Kwon in the semi-finals of Adelaide International 2. Rafa, we know, has lost 6 out of his last 7 matches, not in great form. In saying that, he should get through this. Jack Draper is a big hitter. He's got a big serve, big forehand. His backhand as well is pretty solid. His movement has improved drastically, and he's young, he's hungry. This could be a monumental moment in his career. If he was to win this, it could definitely catapult him forward in his career. However, Nadal, of course, has navigated these types of players and these types of moments many a time. The biggest issue I have is that Nadal, if he was to lose to someone in a first round match and early on in the slam, it's normally against the big server and hitters. It's those guys, the guys that are going to be aggressive and potentially hit him off the court and take the racket out of his hand almost. And a lot of people, when they play Rafa, especially in a first round, they think, well, I've got nothing to lose here. And they end up coming out just playing ridiculously aggressive tennis. Now, I think Jack Draper is going to do something similar. I think he's going to try and charge the net as well. But Rafa should have a bit too much for him in terms of experience and ability. So I'm going to go with Nadal, but I don't think it's going to be straightforward, if I'm being honest with you. I think it could go 4 or 5. Then we've got Nakashima versus McDonald, an all-American affair. Nakashima, for me, will come through that. I'm quite excited about him this year. And of course, I picked him, and Rafa's route to the final is pretty treacherous, you'd say. Manar versus Srakina is a qualifier. I'm going to go Manar. Then we've got Mikael Ymer versus Nishioka. Now, Mikael Ymer is a solid player from Sweden. Nishioka's been in some good form recently, making a semi-finals of Adelaide International 1. Losing to Sebastian Korda, of course, had a match point against Djokovic in the final. So no real shame in that. I'm going to go Nishioka given his current form. Khachanov versus Zapata Morales. I'm going to go Khachanov. Sebastian Baez versus Kubler. I'm going to go Kubler, the wild card. Even though I like Sebastian Baez, I think he's a really good player. I do think he's still a little bit of a clay court specialist. He is improving on other surfaces, but I feel like Kubler, with the crowd behind him as well, will come through. Oscar Otte versus Zhengcheng Shang is a qualifier. I'm going to Oscar Otte. He's got a massive serve, absolutely huge serve. On these quick courts, he should have some success. Daniel Altmaier versus Francis Tiafoe. Tiafoe, the number 16 seed, has been in some really good form in the past year. Of course, making the semi-finals of the US Open, playing in the Laver Cup as well, and playing the United Cup, played some really good matches. So he's coming into this pretty confident. The fast court should suit his game and effortless power. So I imagine he's going to go relatively far. Hakac versus Martinez, going to go Hakac, although Hakac has definitely flattered to deceive when it comes to Grand Slam events. He's looked pretty good for maybe a round or two, and then he goes out early. He's the 10th seed. He needs to be making at least a quarterfinal at some slam this year. Otherwise, I feel like it's a massive failure. Genuinely, I know it sounds harsh, but he is not getting any younger. He needs to start making moves at these slams if he wants to, 1, stay in the top 10, and 2, stay relevant and hungry as well for titles, because at the moment it's almost like there's this pressure against him to perform in the slams, and it just keeps on building and building and building as he continues to not actually progress in the slams. It just is compounded each time he fails at a slam. Sonego versus Borges. I'm going to go Sonego. I like the Italian. He's an action-packed player, isn't he, Lorenzo Sonego? Escobedo versus Taro Daniel. I'm going to go Taro Daniel. He was it the Australian Open, I think, that he beat Andy Murray in a pretty good match. And he's pretty solid player as well. Lajovic versus Shapovalov. I'm going to go Shapovalov. I think he should have too much for Lajovic, and he's been in some decent form recently. Sebastian Korda versus Christian Garin. Now, Korda will be a little bit disappointed because he's seeded at 29. This isn't the easiest of draws. He's unseeded Christian Garin, but he is dangerous. I'm going to go Korda, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's 3 or 4 sets. 4 or 5 sets even. Then we've got Yosuke Watanuki as a qualifier versus Ridonek. I'm going to go Ridonek. Millman versus Hoysland. I'm going to go Millman as the home favorite. And a little bit of bias, I guess, there, given that he's from Australia. I'm not Australian, of course, myself. But, yeah, I think. And then we've got Marcus Giron versus Daniel Medvedev, which will actually be the night match. So, yeah, I don't know. I think Medvedev should get through that okay. He should get through okay. Marcus Giron is a solid player, but doesn't really hold many weapons. So for me, Medvedev should be okay to navigate his way through that. Tsitsipas versus Halys, going to go Tsitsipas. Halys has been in some decent form, but Tsitsipas should be too strong. Hanfman, Hijikata going to go Hanfman. Yeah. I feel like coming through qualifying, by the way, as well, is a little bit of an advantage in the sense that you've obviously played on these courts. You've got a little bit of match practice under your belt. They are dangerous, the qualifiers, especially against players like Hijikata, who's a wild card. Don't really hold much hope for them because the qualifiers are coming into this in form. If you're playing against a top 10 player, fine. But anyone outside of that, you're definitely on to potentially cause an upset. Grigspor versus Kotta. Well, Grigspor actually won Pune recently. He'll be confident. He should get through that. Ivashka versus Van der Zandschulp. That's a great first round match. Haven't really talked about this, have we? As a popcorn match. I think it is. Maybe 2 less well-known names, I guess, but it's a good match. I'm going to go Van der Zandschulp. Of course, he made the quarterfinals of the Australian Open last year. I don't think it was the semi-finals. It might have been semi-finals, actually. Quarters or semis. I can't remember. Musetti versus Lloyd Harris is a really good one as well, but Musetti should come through that. Lloyd Harris, of course, he had a really good start to 2022, end of 2021. I think he was seeded at a couple of the slams. He's fallen down the rankings after some adverse results, and I think, maybe he had a little bit of a purple patch and it's faded a little bit now. So Musetti should come through that. He's also rising up the rankings at 17th seed, and his form on hard courts is improving day by day. Looked pretty good at the United Cup as well. Korea versus Fucsovic, going to go Fucsovic, the wily veteran wily Grand Slam veteran. We've got Thomas Martin Echeverry of Argentina versus Gregor Barrer. I'm going to go Echeverry. And then Sinner versus Carl Edmund, which is a really good match as well. Carl Edmund, though, after that pretty unfortunate injury, or he has had multiple injuries, actually, really, has stalled in his career. He, was looking like he was going to potentially challenge for maybe not a slam, but some titles, and then also go relatively deep in slams. He's still not quite what he was, and Yannick Sinner is an up-and-coming star. He really is. Yannick Sinner, for me, will come through that. Cameron Norrie versus Van Ash is a wild card. Cam Norrie should get through that. Montero versus Lestienne. Going on Montero. Then we've got Christopher Eubanks as a wild card versus Sunwoo Kwon. Now, Kwon just beat Korda. He's in the final of Adelaide International 2. Sorry, he just beat, not Korda. He just beat Draper in the semifinals. He's made the final. Could that potentially be... could that be harmful? Could that hamper him going into this? He should be okay. I'm going to go for him. Lehecka versus Chorich. I'm going to go Chorich. Chorich is a danger man, I'll tell you that. Cerundolo versus Pella. Going to go Cerundolo. He's also an interesting player as well to talk about. Mute versus Wu is a wild card. Going to go Mute. Molcan versus Wawrinka. That's not an easy first round for Wawrinka, I have to say. It's pretty tough. It's not as tough as Murray and Team's first rounds, but also not particularly easy. Molcan is solid. He really is. But I think Wawrinka should win. It'll be a tough battle, though. Felix versus Pospisil. So 2 Canadians going at it. Felix should win this. He should, but given some of his recent form, it's not looked fantastic, has it? It's a big, big, big tournament for him. He's seeded number 7, sorry. He had some good wins last year. He should be going deep. Rublev versus Team, what a match that is. I mean, Team must be cursing this draw because he's just got the 5th seed in Rublev. This is going to be an incredible match to watch just because of the hitting on show is going to be unreal. Banana peel. I'm going to go... It's a tough one. I'm going to have to go Rublev. I'm just not sure the team is quite ready for a Rublev in a best of 5. Purcell versus Rusevori. Going to go Rusevori just. I think Purcell will give it a good go, though. Shardy versus Galan. I'm going to go Galan. Bagnis versus Evans. Going to go Evans. Kyrgios versus Safiullin. Going to go Kyrgios. Gasquet versus Umber. So Umber should really win this, given that he's got the fresher legs. He's also, he should be able to navigate his way through this. But on hard, any surface apart from grass, I just have zero confidence in him, genuinely. That's a tough one. I want to say Umber, but I have absolutely no faith that he's going to be able to do it, genuinely. I'm going to go with Umber just probably in a 5-set epic, I'd imagine. Maxime Cressy versus Ramos Vinales. I love Maxime Cressy. I'm going to go with him. It's so funny as well because both these players are so different. Ramos Vinales loves to just camp on the baseline. Maxime Cressy will just charge the net. There's going to be a lot of exchanges where Cressy's at the net and Ramos Vinales is trying to pass him. That'll be a good watch, to be fair, if you're a pure tennis fan. Krajinovic versus Holger Rune. Not an easy first round for Holger Rune, but he should get through it okay. Pablo Corona Busta versus Pedro Cachin. Going to go PCB. Then we've got Mattia Bellucci, who's a qualifier, versus Bonzi. Now, Benjamin Bonzi's been in some good form, so he should get through. They made the final of Puna, lost to Greixspor. Isner versus Manarino. What? Some of these matchups, they're great. Isner's a huge server, of course, as we know. He likes it pretty big as well. He's not trying to get into long rallies. Manarino is just the classic, typical grinder. Slow serve, slow ground strokes, hits flat, but with not much power. He's just looking to make sure that you make mistakes. He's trying to induce you into errors. And Isner is going to be attacking. Manarino is going to be defensive. It's going to be a great clash of styles. I want to go Isner just because of the quickness of the surface. Su versus Alex de Minaur. Going to go Alex de Minaur. Dimitrov versus Karatsev. Now, if this was Karatsev from 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, then we're talking about a really good match and potentially even Karatsev coming out on top. But in current form, Dimitrov should blow him away. Berge versus Ger. Going to go Ger. Quad versus Hugo Delian. Going to go Hugo Delian. Djokovic versus Carabas Baena. Djokovic should breeze through him, given how he's been playing recently. Fritz versus Basilashvili. I'll tell you what, this is not an easy match for Fritz. It's really not. Basilashvili is such a big hitter on quick courts. I mean, he's going to hit even bigger. He's going to be hitting some 100-mile-per-hour winners. I'm not really sure whether his game even needs to be on a fast court, though, because he hits so big. But he makes a lot of errors, of course, so that's the other issue. And Taylor Fritz's serve is just good. It's very good. I'm going to go Taylor Fritz. I think Basilashvili is going to struggle to break the Fritz serve. Seng versus Popperin. Popperin's a wild card from Australia. Seng is a good player. I'm going to go Popperin to win. Ben Shelton versus Zhang. Wow. This is an interesting one. I'm going to go Ben Shelton. Why not? Jarry versus Ketmanovic. Going to Ketmanovic. Schwartzman versus Krut, who's a qualifier from Ukraine. Going to go Schwartzman. JJ Wolf versus Jordan Thompson. Even. Really good matchup. Going to go JJ Wolf. Goffin versus Lokoy. Going to go Goffin. Varillas versus Zverev. Varillas is a lucky loser. Now, Zverev should come through this. I'm not particularly confident on how he's been playing recently, though. And actually, Gil Gross made a really good point that whenever Zverev has a break or is injured, whenever he comes back, he always looks to see whether his second serve has changed, because obviously that's the part of his game that is quite inconsistent. That's not to say that it is a terrible part of it, but it is a part of his game that can let him down on occasion, and it almost seems like it's out of his hands at times. So you'd expect maybe for him to make some sort of technical, tweaks to the second serve. But as he said, and he's right, it always looks the same. He's not made any changes to it. And that, to me, is a little bit of stubbornness on his part as well, in that he doesn't want to change. He doesn't want to improve. He's almost like, it works. It's just a mental thing. Yes, it is a mental thing as well. But I think it is also, there is some technical aspect that needs to be ironed out a little bit. As to what it is, I haven't looked into that enough. But the fact that he has struggled with it for so many years, pretty much his whole career, to me indicates that something probably needs to change. And when he's playing in good form, it doesn't show as much. But I think the problem is that when he's not striking the ball well, suddenly the double faults just come quickly. So when it is Zverev, though, to navigate his way through the lucky loser. Berrettini-Murray, what a match this is. Incredible match. Can't wait for this one, genuinely. Berrettini should make his way through it. I think Murray has been done dirty here, a little bit like Dominic Thiem. Unfortunately, I think Berrettini is just too fresh. And if this was Murray from 10 years ago, as I said, I think, Murray, not even 10 years ago, if this was Murray from 6-7 years ago, he wins this, but probably not today. Kokkinakis versus Fognini is a really good matchup as well. That's going to be fantastic. There's going to be a lot of flair on show, isn't there? I'm going to go Kokkinakis, but I wouldn't be surprised if Fognini wins, honestly. Vukic versus Brandon Holt, going to go Brandon Holt. Sousa versus RBA, going to go RBA. Alejandro Davidovich-Fokina versus Alexander Bublik. Wow, fantastic match. I'm going to go Bublik. Go on, Bublik. Go on. Beat the seeded player. Then we've got Struff versus Tommy Poole. Yeah, Leonard Struff is a good player. He's come through qualifying. He's solid. He really is. I personally think with his game, he should be ranked a bit higher, but it just doesn't seem to be able to find consistency, and that really is the key at this level. I think Tommy Poole should come through it. He's been in some pretty good form recently. Christopher O'Connell versus Jensen Brooksby, going to go Brooksby. And then Thomas Machak versus Casper Ruud. Casper Ruud should make his way through this first round. All right, second round, here we go. This is where it gets even more spicy. Nadal versus Nakashima. Nadal's come through that. I reckon that's a 4-5 setter, though, if it happens. Manar versus Nishioka. That's got 4-5 sets written all over it as well. Literally. Nishioka. Hachinov, Kubler going to go Hachinov. Otter versus TFO. TFO may struggle with the Otter serve, but if he's able to just get past that serve in points in the rallies, he should dominate. TFO should come out from that okay. Her catch versus Sonego. Her catch should get through it, but I don't have much hope. He could lose at any stage, honestly. Shapovalov versus Taro Daniel. Shapovalov should come through that. Korda versus Ridonek. Korda. Medvedev versus Millman. Medvedev. Tsitsipas Hanfman. Tsitsipas should come through that. Grykspor Van der Zandschulp. Do I go for the upset? It's an all-Dutch affair. Can Grykspor... You know what? Yeah, go on. Grykspor to beat Van der Zandschulp. He's in good form. Why not? Let's pick him. Musetti versus Fucsovic. That's a pretty tough test for Musetti. It'll be a good yardstick to see where he's at on hard courts. I'm going to go with him, though. He's on a little bit of a high right now. Sinner versus Etcheverry, going to go Sinner. Nori versus Montero. Nori should come through that okay. Kwon versus Chorich. What a match. That's going to be... Kwon is a really exciting young talent, and we've got Chorich as well. Question is, can Kwon deal with the Chorich serve? He's sort of on the backhand in a best of 5. Experience, I think, is going to tell. I'm going to go Chorich. Cerundolo versus Mute. Going to go with Cerundolo. Stan Wawrinka versus... Wow, Felix has got a tough route, Felix versus Stan Wawrinka, potentially. Felix should get through it, though. He should. I think Wawrinka is probably not going to enjoy playing Felix if Felix is playing at the level we know he can. Rublev versus Rusevori. Rublev should come through it. Gannon versus Evans. Going to go Galan to cause the upset. Kyrgios versus Umber, a replay of the Wimbledon first round match at the 2021 Wimbledon tournament. I did see most of that. Kyrgios should come through it. Maxime Cressy versus... Oh, what a match that's going to be. Maxime Cressy versus Holger Rune. Yes, please. Maxime Cressy is going to charge the net, and Holger Rune's going to do his best to pass. Oh, it's going to be fantastic. Holger Rune's come through, though, just. Although, you know what, Maxime Cressy, I feel like he's still really effective at the Australian Open, but the grass is really where that's his home, right? Because the ball bounces low as well. He likes to slice on the approach as well. Yeah, go on, Holger Rune. PCB versus Bonzi. Oi. Can Bonzi cause the upset is the question. Probably not. Go PCB. John Isner versus Alex de Minaur. De Minaur should be okay. His returning ability is pretty solid. Question's going to be, can he hold his nerve, especially with the home crowd? Should be okay. Dimitrov to beat Ger. Djokovic to beat Hugo Dellien. Fritz to beat Popperin. Kecmanovic to beat Ben Shelton. Sure, I'm going to go Schwartzman to beat JJ Wolf. Yeah. Then we've got Goffin, Zverev. I'm not sure if Zverev's going to even win this, but I'll go Zverev. Berrettini to beat Kokkinakis, and I can't see Kokkinakis being Berrettini. RBA versus Holt, going to RBA. Bublik, Tommy Paul. Tommy Paul for me. And Jensen Brooksby, Casper Ruud. Oh, tough one because Brooksby's a solid player, but I think it has to be Casper Ruud. Right, here we go. Third round, Rafa Nadal versus Nishioka. Nadal for me. Khachanov, TFO. Khachanov's been playing some good tennis and slams, but so's TFO. Both made semi-finals of the US Open. Okay, but the service is a little bit quicker. Who does that favor? Well, Khachanov's serve is arguably better. I wouldn't say it's bigger. TFO's got a big serve, but he hits his spots a bit better. Returning wise, TFO's better. In the rallies, it just depends really on how TFO's. But I think, if I'm being honest with you, it's really in TFO's hands how that comes out. The head-to-head is 2-0 to Khachanov. They haven't played those since 2021. Both times were on grass. I think on hard court it's going to be different. I'm going to go TFO. Her catch versus Shapovalov. Hey, I feel like her catch is might actually be Shapovalov's worst nightmare. He kind of just will come to the net. He'll make it awkward. He'll not really give him a lot to hit with from the back of the court. Her catch has got a 3-1 record against Shapovalov. I'm going to go her catch. Korda versus Medvedev. Could Korda beat Medvedev is the big question. Could Korda beat Medvedev? Only played once. Medvedev won Paris Masters 2021. 3 sets. No, it's tough to see. I think it's going to be Medvedev to win. Tsitsipas, Grigspor, Tsitsipas for me. Musetti, Sinner, what a match. What an all-Italian affair in the third round. I think Sinner on a hard course is just a bit better, honestly. Although Musetti's forehand was on fire at the United Cup. I'm going to go Sinner, though. Nori, Coric. The question is, can Coric break Nori down? I'm not quite sure he can. Although his backhand's so solid, Coric. He's got 2-1 head-to-head as well. Beat him in Cincinnati last year. Yeah. Coric. Felix versus Cerundolo. Felix should come through that okay. Rublev, Galan, Rublev. Kyrgios versus Holger Rune. Wow. Oh, I was talking about this in the reaction video. This is a ridiculous third round match. This could be a quarterfinal or semi-final of a slam. The head-to-head is 1-1. Kyrgios won the match in 2022. Oh, sorry, this is Casper Ruud I'm looking at. I don't know if they've played Rune and have they? No, they haven't. They haven't. Oh, so who wins? Is the big question. I'm going to go Kyrgios just because I don't think Rune will be able to adapt to Kyrgios' serve quick enough, given they haven't played before. PCB versus Alex de Minaur. I'm going to go Alex de Minaur to beat PCB and navigate him nicely. He is really the speed demon, isn't he? And he's in some good form. With the home crowd behind him, it's going to be difficult for PCB. Dimitrov versus Djokovic. Djokovic to come through that unscathed, I'd imagine. Fritz Kekmanovic. I'm going to go Fritz. Schwartzman Zverev. I'm going to go Zverev just. Berrettini. RBA going to go Berrettini. And then Tommy Paul versus Casper Ruud. I'm going to go for the upset. I'm going to go Tommy Paul to beat Casper Ruud. I like Tommy Paul. I really do. And they've had some close matches. Yeah, go on. You know what, though? I really do underestimate Casper Ruud. I should stop doing this because he's probably going to make another final. I don't know. He's made 2 slam finals last year. Didn't play the Australian Open. This is a quicker surface. I don't think he'll like it as much, maybe. Okay, maybe. Let's see. I've gone Tommy Paul anyway. Nadal TFO, a replay of the round of 16 match of the US Open. This is where Nadal could really trip up because TFO could have his number. He'll feel really confident going into this. But I have to go Nadal with the experience, with the drive and determination. Even though his current form's been pretty poor, you have to cater in with these guys like Nadal and Djokovic, also their experience and how they've navigated through tournaments in the past. But we'll see. We'll see. Right, okay, so Hurkacz versus Medvedev. What a match that's going to be. That's going to be a cracker. They're going to really get into it. It's going to be an absolute barnstormer. Massive serving. Hurkacz coming to the net. Medvedev passing him. Trades in the back of the court, backhand to backhand. Could Hurkacz do it? Could he beat Medvedev? Is the big question. I don't know. He's beaten him at Wimbledon, but Wimbledon is more suited to Hurkacz's game. On a hard court is really Medvedev's home. Now Hurkacz has had success on hard courts, Miami winning there. The head-to-head is 3-2. They played at Halle, grassy. That's not really a good indicator. They played twice on outdoor hard. Hurkacz won once at Miami, and Medvedev won once at Canada. Medvedev beat Hurkacz last year on indoor hard in 3 sets. Could Hurkacz finally make his move? This would be a big statement if he was to beat Medvedev in a slam. Gonna go Hurkacz. I just think it has to happen at some time, and it has to click at some time. Maybe this is the year. Maybe this is the tournament. Tsitsipas Sinner, what a match that is as well. Tsitsipas has just tended to have the upper hand over Sinner, especially in slams anyway. I would be surprised if Sinner wins this one, but he is improving a great deal. The head-to-head's 4-1. Beating on the Australian Open last year in the quarterfinals. The draw has not been... Well, Sinner's dropped a little bit down the rankings, I think, hasn't he? That's why. Yes, it's pass. But, yeah. Well, I don't know. 5-setter anyway. Either way, you could easily pick Sinner there. Troich versus Felix Auger-Aliassime. Auger-Aliassime is just... should be going deep. His serve is going to be a nightmare. A top 5 serve at the moment, I would say. And it'll be a nightmare if he hits his spots on this surface. Same for Troich as well, to be honest with you, though. It's just going to be, can Felix stick with him in the backhand exchanges? I'm not quite sure he can. But athletically and in terms of just overall game, Felix does top him. I think Felix would just edge it. Then we've got Rublev, Kyrgios. I think Kyrgios would beat Rublev, for me, honest with you. I think Rublev has a very good game, but it is also relatively limited. Kyrgios knows how to beat him. He's figured him out, I think. Dimona versus Djokovic, good match, but Djokovic has played people like Dimona in his sleep. Fritz versus Zverev. Fritz will beat Zverev, I think. I think Zverev. At the moment, Fritz is playing like how Zverev did maybe a year ago. And Zverev is coming back from a big injury. I don't see him going deep at the Australian Open. Berrettini versus Tommy Paul. Berrettini for me. Right, quarterfinals. This is where it gets interesting now because I've got Nadal versus Hurkacz. Nadal versus Hurkacz is an interesting one because Hurkacz doesn't have massive weapons from the back of the court. Of course, he's got a massive serve, but he will try and just charge the net. He will charge the net. He will try and make it difficult for him. And I don't know, we'll have to see how it goes because I'm not sure if that's the right tactic or not. Now, the head-to-head is 0-0. They never play each other, so that could be interesting. And because they haven't played each other, I'm going to go for Nadal because I feel like if you played Nadal before, that does give you a big advantage when playing him again because you know how his ball feels, how it is returning that shot back into play. It's a very unique shot, that forehand. Tsitsipas Felix Auger-Aliassime is a fantastic match. That's really a pick-em. It really is. I'm going to go with. By the way, you need to actually. It's worth noting you need to take some of these picks with a pinch of salt, and I'll tell you which ones because I don't like being really boring and going for the obvious like winners. So I tend to go pretty left field with my predictions. But Tsitsipas Felix, I'll have to come back to that in a second. Fritz Berrettini is a replay of the United Cup match recently. Who wins it? Who wins it? Fritz won recently. Who wins in this one? Fritz. Oh, yeah, I think Fritz. Do I? Yeah. Do I, though? Yes. Yes, I do. Really doubting myself, but I'm going to go Fritz. Okay, Kyrgios Djokovic. What a match. What a quarterfinal that would be. Could I seriously go with Kyrgios? I think it's difficult. I think on a clay court, Djokovic, I mean, there's no way Kyrgios is beating him. On a hard court, I'm not sure. Grass, I could see Kyrgios beating Djokovic on a grass court. On a hard court, though, US Open, no. Australia, maybe, because it's so quick. I'm going to go left field here. If I'm being honest, my pick was Medvedev initially before the draw had come out. My logical pick is Djokovic, seeing the draw, and also, obviously we know how good he is. But given I'm doing this bracket and I want to be a bit adventurous and not be boring, I'm going to go Nick Kyrgios. They just played an exhibition. Kyrgios won it. I mean, it's an exhibition. It doesn't mean much. And the deciding tiebreaker was first to 10. They were playing doubles with some other people. I have a feeling he will make the quarters. And I also have a feeling that if they play, Kyrgios might have a chance. If he's able to serve how we know he normally serves, that's great. But he's able to return well on the forehand side. But the biggest issue for me, though, is that, yes, it's a quicker surface, but the reason why Djokovic has been so successful at the Australian Open is because he is so good at being able to deal with the fast courts. And then not just deal with the fast courts, but now recently his serve is arguably a top 5 serve. Like, that is how good it's become. And he hits his spots and he'll get 3 points. Now, it's not as good as Kyrgios's, in my opinion, but it's not as far off as it was before. That's for sure. It used to be really far off that. Now, he hits his spots and Kyrgios isn't the best returner. On the backhand side, he's pretty solid. Short backswing is good. Forehand side still needs work. Is he going to try and charge the net and serve and volley? Djokovic won't stand that far back, I would imagine. I say a Medvedev or Nadal. So you'll need to be a bit creative. You know what? Fine. I think Kyrgios is going to have a blinder, basically. But by him winning, I think he needs to have a blinder. And it could happen, especially with a crowd behind him. We saw it happen with the Australian Open doubles. Who knows? Tsitsipas versus Felix. I think at this stage, Tsitsipas is just, because of his recent form as well, he's a slight favourite. I think he manages to navigate his way through this. It would be a very, very tough match, though, I have to say. Felix, if he's got to this stage, surely then has built up some type of form as well. The head-to-head is actually 5-3 to Tsitsipas. But on outdoor hard court, oh, interesting. An outdoor hard court, though, 3-1 to Tsitsipas. Yeah, that's right. Okay. So yeah, we're going to Tsitsipas. And I've got Nadal to beat Hurkacz just because Hurkacz had. I think if Hurkacz had played Nadal before and he knew how Nadal's ball would feel, I would actually maybe even edge towards him. So semi-finals, I've got Nadal, Tsitsipas, Kyrgios, Fritz. I don't see Nadal going past the semi-finals, and I genuinely think he could even lose at any point from the first round onwards. I think this is a pretty ambitious run that I've given him, and maybe catering in as well some of the upsets I picked earlier on the draw. For Tsitsipas, though, he's made his semi-finals last 2 years. He has lost to Medvedev both years at the Australian Open the last 2 years. He wouldn't have to face Medvedev by the looks of it by the draw. Nadal is an easier prospect for Tsitsipas personally because I think he doesn't mind taking the ball high on the shot at shoulder height. I think he is actually the favorite on a hard court against Nadal. I think his serve forehand combination, the serve 1+ play is elite, and on a hard court, it's just so good. He will come to the net. I think Rafa, he doesn't enjoy how quick these courts are. And even though he won here last year and he played some really, really good tennis, he didn't come up against a Steph. He came up against a Medvedev, but he didn't really come up against anyone super attacking who was controlled. He played Shapovalov, who's a bit all over the place, and played Berrettini, who's a good server, has got a good forehand, but he doesn't move as athletically as Tsitsipas. He volleys maybe similarly to Tsitsipas, and on Tsitsipas's backhand, I feel like he actually deals with Nadal's forehand better than, say, a two-hander like Berrettini, which is pretty crazy to think about, but I think he doesn't mind it at all. His return's also improved, and Rafa's serve hasn't. And serving-wise, I think he'd cause Rafa trouble because he hits his spots really nicely. So I actually think Tsitsipas will beat Nadal. Now we've got Kyrgios and Fritz. Now, Fritz, do not sleep on Fritz. He's a really, really top player. Now, Kyrgios would have to struggle against his serve and try and find something to get through it. He really would. You need to come up with some sort of game plan because, you know, if he returns the way that we normally see him return, I don't think that's going to be good enough against Fritz, honestly. But similarly, he'd also, you know, Fritz is not an elite returner either. And I think Kyrgios would win a lot of free points on serve. So we would probably see a couple of tiebreakers or at least one. But I'm going to go with Kyrgios. I'm going for a little bit of a fairy tale run here at home, aren't I? Going for like the Ash Barty, but for the men's. So I've picked Tsitsipas and Kyrgios in a replay of Wimbledon. Oh, my, hilarious. In a replay of Wimbledon 2022, I think third round it was. And there would be fireworks because, yes, they played doubles since and they say they're friends. And I think they are, but I think when they go onto court and they're playing against each other, there's still going to be that competitive edge. They're friends who are super competitive with each other. They're not. It's not like Kyrgios and Kokkinakis where they don't want to play each other. They are friendly. I think maybe actually the word is they're friendly. They're not friends, if that makes sense. And there is this friendly rivalry that I think would be explosive and it'd make a really good final. Now, this isn't the Nadal versus Djokovic final, right? That everyone else. Yeah, I think. Sorry, excuse me. It's not the Nadal versus Djokovic final that everyone would want, and I'm not going to say that that won't happen. But in my opinion, the likelihood of that happening is probably pretty slim, and probably not down to Djokovic because, as I said, the logical pick is for Djokovic to navigate his way through his draw and win. His draw isn't the hardest, and I think he could easily do it. He's a massive favorite. I don't bet. I'm not a gambler, so I don't know the odds, but I would assume he's, a massive favorite. The issue would be Nadal navigating his way through the draw to make the final, and I don't think he will do that. And I do think Kyrgios needs to be taken as a serious threat to Djokovic if they are to play in the quarterfinals. Now, that's assuming that they're actually going to meet in the quarterfinals. They might not even play in the quarterfinals. And then, we're talking about something that's not even going to happen. If Djokovic plays someone other than Kyrgios, if he plays a Rublev or a Rune, I think he gets through there pretty easily because Rublev is tailor-made for Djokovic and Rune is a very good player. He beats him in Paris, yes, but I think in a best of five, I don't think he stands a chance. And I think we would potentially see something similar to what we saw with Sinner versus Djokovic at Wimbledon last year, where Rune might even take a 2-set lead, but then the next 3 sets are not going to be comfortable. They're not going to be tight. Djokovic is going to win them comfortably, and then it would almost be like, oh, I've just won the first 2 sets. How is he now blowing me away? But Djokovic has that endurance. He has that ability to adapt, and he would do so, I think. So, yeah. Anyway, this is my final, Tsitsipas versus Kyrgios. Who do I go for, Kyrgios or Stefanos Tsitsipas? Tsitsipas is due a major at some point, and I went very American there saying major, but he's due a Grand Slam at some point, isn't he? And for Kyrgios, he needs to win a slam at some point in his career. This is almost like a hopeful final, maybe, because I think Nadal and Djokovic, I love them, and I think Nadal Djokovic final, honestly, for viewership, for just the atmosphere, and I have to be honest, for the channel, it would be massive. So, everyone loves a Djokovic Nadal final or a Djokovic Nadal match, but this would bring something different, but in a good way, I think, as well. So, I actually think Kyrgios has the mental edge against Tsitsipas, just slightly. On these courts, a faster hard court, I think it's not as lopsided as it is on grass. I think Kyrgios is a favorite on grass. On clay, Tsitsipas is a favorite on clay. On a hard court, now slow hard court at the US Open, I think Kyrgios is a slight favorite. At the Australian Open, on a faster hard court, I think he's slightly more of a favorite. Even though Tsitsipas has made 2 semifinals here, I think Kyrgios does edge it. He does. Whether he would take the pressure of a final as well, I don't know. But I think both would be tight in some instances. But I'm going to go Kyrgios to win. So I'm going to go Kyrgios to win the Australian Open. Now, this is one of the biggest and boldest predictions I've gone for probably on the history of the channel. But you know what? Why not? Let me know your picks in it. Who have you picked? Have you done your bracket? And if so, who have you picked to win the Australian Open? Let me know in the comments below. And how crazy is my Kyrgios pick? Am I completely insane for picking him to win? Or actually, does he have a potential chance? Let me know your thoughts. Thank you very much, guys. Stay safe and well. We'll see you on the next video.